Hitchhiker's Guide to Cancer, day 68. The decision is finally in, people. It took 68 days. The primary care team is none other than Duke University. Don't love the hat. It was a struggle trying to find a good Duke hat. If I'm being honest, the UCLA hat was much better. But hat ain't going to save my life, people. So more importantly, let's get into the updates. Friday updates. We got a decent amount of stuff going on, but more importantly, the Duke decision has been weighing on me. A weight lifted. Excited to move forward with that. I'm actually going to go over the decision-making process and how I kind of arrived at Duke. But first, a couple other updates. Chemo began 2 days ago, so I'm taking what's called Timodor. It's chemo pills. So those pills theoretically are supposed to be more mild than drip, which is the IV over hours. You have to go in to the hospital for it. It's miserable. It's what you think about when you think about traditional chemotherapy. I take 5 pills a day. I don't take 5 pills a day. What am I talking about? I take 1 pill a day for 5 days, and then I take 23 days off. So it's a month-long cycle, the month being 28 days theoretically. So that began 2 days ago. So going to experience apparently some nausea, loss of appetite, loss of sleep. I'll tell you, a little bit of nausea in the morning so far, day 2. Beyond that, I slept all day yesterday, or all day today. And so I'm hoping that's not going to continue, but month to month is really where we're going to see how that impacts me. I've heard different things where it should be consistent the first 5 days, and then the next 3 weeks you should feel okay. I've heard each month that passes, it gets a little bit more challenging. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. Other than the restlessness and a little bit of nausea, which is manageable because of my meds, day 2 is okay. New LITT shirts, excited about new LITT shirts coming out. Link is in the description. If you want to support the cause, love is the treatment. There's 3 shirts that we're going to be selling in black and white. I'll be sending those out essentially once a month. I'll be doing an order in that. Also, I wanted to mention, well, I'll get into the travel schedule and the MRI, but let's talk about the decision-making process between Duke and UCLA. And I want to show you guys, hopefully, maybe this could help somebody in the future, but I'll zoom in. I try to look at these things in a situation that's very emotional. It's easy to get the emotions involved in a way that has as much equanimity as possible and essentially objectively as possible. So I just kind of went back to business and created a decision matrix and looked at what were the factors in a decision like this. I weighted them essentially in order of importance, and I just kind of objectively looked at, okay, what do the numbers say and how do I feel about it? So looking at the factors. So as you can see here, we have UCLA and then we have Duke. We know that Duke won, so that's no surprise, but Duke won. We know I selected Duke, but the factors, experience with glioblastoma. I put that as the highest factor. Knowing glioblastoma to me was far more important and weighted than anything else. Success rate, as far as you have traditionally a 12 to 18 month timeline. What data can we gather as far as you extending that timeline and people's survival rate? The team, not just a neurosurgeon, because I'm dealing more with people beyond the actual neurosurgeon than anybody else. So the team was an important factor to me. Innovation. So with something that is so dire and something that really there haven't been many strides made and progress made, clinical trials are going to be really important, especially after the tumor is removed, and prevention of recurrence. Communication, that's been a big challenge for me. The initial institution I went with, the initial hospital, that was the main reason I left, was communication and responsiveness. And that's really important to me. And it was a factor in this decision, as you'll see in a second. Responsiveness. These were there's a little bit of overlap here. To me, it's communication as far as what information are you giving to me that I don't already know that's preemptive? So before something happens? Are you telling me what should happen? Are you informing me before there's something that comes up? That's really important to me. So that's kind of how I looked at the communication piece. Responsiveness was, when I reach out to you, do I get a response? Does your team get back to me? How quickly do they do that? When you have this timeline, we've talked about time and urgency, we can't be waiting. So that was also a mitigating factor in the situation. Connectivity with institution, that's my connectivity with the institution. If we're not moving the ball downfield, are there people that I can reach out to that can move the ball downfield? Bedside manner's disposition, this factors more into my family and really post-surgery. How are you increasing my anxiety level and my stress levels? Are you decreasing them? My family members, my loved ones, are you increasing their anxiety or are you decreasing their anxiety? Because that also plays into my anxiety. So I thought that was a factor, albeit a lower factor. It's a 2, which is the second least most important factor. Proximity, as far as location, which that factors into cost. That also factors into, if there is an emergency, my ability to get to you. A lot easier for me to get to Raleigh from Baltimore than it is to get to LA from Baltimore. If something happens and I can't fly there immediately, I can drive 5 hours and I'm in Raleigh. So those are the factors. Without going into all of, break down each one, just look at what the big ones were. They both scored high experience with BGM. They're leading institutions, so they scored the same there. I gave a slight advantage to Dr. Liao at UCLA with her success rate. That was the main reason why she was our number one in the beginning, and UCLA was our number one in the beginning. But they quickly fell short. And listen, this is my experience, so I'm not saying this is the overall experience with UCLA or this is knocking them in either way. It's more promoting Duke and really my experience with Duke. But to me, there was a huge gap between the team at Duke and the team at UCLA. As you can see, a 21 versus 7, which I did the weight times a 1, 2, or 3. So I said, are they below average as a 1? Are they average or meet expectations as a 2? Are they above average? So I kept it very simple. So I took 1, 2, or 3, and I multiplied it by the weight, and that's how I created the score I have here. Innovation clinical trials, I gave a slight advantage to UCLA, although I can make the argument that Duke has been willing to show that they'll try things, especially with GBM. Our first conversation, they talked about me potentially going to Germany. So I slid the scale a little bit to UCLA on that one, but then this is where it gets a little bit different. Connectivity to the university institution. I have more connectivity to Duke, responsiveness and communication. The difference between Duke and UCLA is night and day. In my experience, they were telling me things, and I met with them last. They were telling me things without me prompting them that I wish I had known, that I had already found out on my own. I wish I had known. That would have been really helpful if I had them from the jump. Whether it's, you have these alternatives for medications. Here's what you're going to experience as side effects. Here's what you need to consider. Here are what the next steps. And they were so patient and thorough with me. Maybe that's not a big factor for you, but it was a huge factor for me. Bedside manners, I do have a little bit of a question regarding their bedside manners. I could be wrong in this, but again, I didn't want to just favor Duke. I think a lot of people thought I was leaning that way. It was a really tough decision. And then proximity, not a huge factor. I mean, as far as tipping the scales, but proximity went to Duke as well. So you could see it from a score perspective, 113 to 95. Duke was a clear winner. They were the clear choice to me. I did list cons, and this is one key point maybe somebody can take away from it. When you're looking, I don't think you can be truly objective if you're not listing the downside. If you come to me and you're like, this is what you should do, and you're not telling me the downside, I have trouble feeling like there's objectivity in this. So the cons: lack of communication, responsiveness, disjointed team. They weren't on the same page at UCLA. Hard to meet with them. The distance and costs associated. I don't know my neurosurgeon. I know the name now, but I didn't know my neurosurgeon. I don't know him, haven't met him. Dr. Alan Friedman, which both my neurosurgeon and my oncologist, neurosurgery oncologist, both have the same names, Dr. Friedman. But I'm not totally sure at how aggressive Duke will go after this and trying new therapies or treatments. So those were sort of the cons I looked at in factoring into Duke versus UCLA. That is a decision where I landed. I was legitimately on the fence, and what didn't help me was the night before my decision, I actually had what was called a subclinical seizure. I had missed my meds in the morning. I have no idea how I missed my meds. I could have swore I took them, but all of a sudden I have what I thought was an aura. Turns out it was a subclinical seizure. Looked at my meds, realized I didn't take my meds in the morning. I was supposed to take them at 9 a.m. It was 10 p.m. And essentially I had to call 911, and it worried me from the perspective of the next morning. If I'm being honest, I was concerned about my my decision to go with Duke, because Duke wasn't pushing surgery the way UCLA was. A lot of you know Friday, which is today, April 8th, was supposed to be the day for surgery. I decided to forego it. I felt like it was rushed. I felt like UCLA had not communicated with me, and I didn't feel confident in doing a surgery in 3 days. What we decided was surgery is always on the table. Resection is always on the table. I run the risk of the tumor growing. It is growing. However, the question is it growing because of swelling and agitation, or is it growing because the tumor is just getting larger? That is the fear. That is a potential reality. UCLA can't say definitively, but they seem to think it is likely, very possible, that it could be tumor growth, not due to edema, agitation, or swelling. So I'm putting a lot of faith in Duke's hands, but Duke wants to do an MRI in 2 months. We're looking to move that MRI in a month. And if there's still growth, if there is growth, no doubt there has to be a resection. If there is shrinkage, pause, we may just follow the course. We likely will follow the course. The real tough question becomes if it stays the same. That's when it becomes tough. If you had to ask me now, I'd probably say I would lean towards resection just to be safe. But that scares me. It scares me, and there's a lot of fear surrounding, am I letting this tumor occupy space in my brain too long? What risk am I running? Because it could grow and it could start impacting other hemispheres, other parts of my brain that could have serious implications for me. Really serious stuff and scary stuff. It's a risk I'm willing to take, and I am putting a lot of faith in the knowledge and expertise of what we consider the leading glioblastoma institution. But you can even probably notice my speech is slightly off, and part of it, I think, is due to a little bit to the seizure kind of recovery that I just had, the subclinical seizure, but also could potentially be because of tumor growth, theoretically, I guess. So anyways, we can get into that in the future as far as risk factors associated. But last thing, alignment check. Mind, body, and soul. Mind-wise, I feel good. Again, it was a tough decision. I am just moving forward. I can't say it was clear cut for me, but I do feel confident in my decision, and I'm going to move forward. I'm going to commit to Duke. It's a weight lifted off my shoulder that now they're the primary care team. Hopkins is going to be doing treatment locally. I feel good keeping up with journaling. I'm actually reading this book, Viktor Frankl, A Man's Search for Meaning, which has been really cool. Just thinking about mindset, and someone who's been through a situation that is far more dire than mine, which is Viktor Frankl, if you don't know, was a Holocaust survivor and was in the concentration camps. And he's all about mindset. And to me, reading that is like, it gives you so much perspective on what I'm going through compared to somebody that experienced something far worse in concentration camps. So that's been interesting to read. Mind's in a good place. I feel focused. I feel positive. Body is tired. The subclinical seizure, essentially you're like knocked out for the next day. So yesterday I was out, top of chemo pills. I told you I was out today, feeling a little bit better. We'll see how it progresses the next 3 days and how I feel in the coming weeks. Spirit feels good. Again, just appreciate all the support. And, you know, just spending time with my friends and family and people close. So we're at day 68. moving along, and these days are going by fast, very quickly. Had great conversations. I'm looking forward to Monday, the next episode of the podcast. So make sure you guys tune in. Check out the links in the bio, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.